Hey Tom, what's happening, mate? You good?
How's it going, man? I'm doing well. How are you?
Sorry, I'm a little bit late. I was letting the dog in. She was crying out the back, and it'd have been a nightmare in the background.
Not a problem at all. I understand that completely. I got my dog with me too.
You might hear her grunting in the back. She's like a little pig.
Yeah, mine too. She certainly looks the part. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'll show you mine now. Come here. Come here, Bella. Oh, she's literally like a pig.
Oh yeah, she's pretty.
Well, anyways, Tom, I thought we could start, mate, by telling us about how your fighting career started, how you got into it all.
All right. Yeah. So, we can go way, way back. I was a victim of bullying when I was a child. That's the best way I can describe it. Nothing too crazy or over the top, and a lot of it was my own fault. I had gotten arrested my freshman year in high school for getting in a fight, and then I was put on probation, and I couldn't get in any trouble when you're on probation. So then I just kind of became a target. People knew that they could pick on me and mess with me, and I couldn't really do anything to retaliate. Um, well, on top of that, I was also really small. I was only like 5'5" and about 145, 150 pounds going into high school. So I wasn't a very big guy.
Yeah,
And then so I just got picked on a lot. And I hit a growth spurt going into my junior year of high school, and I just made it a personal mission to find everybody that had picked on me in
yeah,
the years prior. That obviously didn't work out for me because then I got into even more legal trouble. And finally, my mom was like, "Look, you got to do something with this. You obviously enjoyed combat, you enjoy this, um, so do something with it. Go to a gym, do something." So right after I got kicked out of high school, um, I started training. It was right around the time that the Ultimate Fighter was big, and
yeah.
so I started training, and that was right around the time I was 18 years old. I turned, yeah, I want to say I had just turned 18, started training. Um, had my first amateur MMA fight just a few months later, and that was really how my career got started. I fought as an amateur for 5 years and really got a feel for the MMA game and the combat
Yeah.
sports game. Because I'd never really done combat sports before. I wrestled middle school, I wrestled high school briefly while I was there, but I had never really had any other combat sport type experience. So I spent a long time in the amateurs, really kind of developing my skill set.
Yeah,
And
did you? How did you feel with like the discipline and that in the sport when you first went into it?
that was so when I first got into it, it wasn't for me, being completely honest, it was just like it was the cool thing to do.
Yeah,
So for me, it was like it was a way for me to remain cool and with a cool group of friends and meet interesting people and have an excuse to go out and party and things like that. That's what it was for me, to be completely honest with you. I really did take training seriously uh until I would say I was probably 7 or 8 fights into my amateur career. I was probably, yeah, I would say I was yeah, I was probably 2 years into my amateur career at that point, and the fights started to get harder. It wasn't so easy for me, so to speak. So that was when I really started to take training seriously. And it was after I had moved to Oklahoma. I moved to Oklahoma for the first time, and I met a man named Andy Pierce, and he became a very prominent father figure to this day in my life. Um, and he really kind of showed me the ins and outs of boxing, showed me the ins and outs of what it takes to be a fighter and to be great. And he was really the one that instilled that type of discipline into me. But that didn't come until much later, and it was and still is a developed habit that I'm trying to work on and trying to continuously get better with.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably one of the most rewarding things that I've gotten out of this this whole career is, the ability to put my mind to something, a task, regardless of what it is, and accomplish that task. That's it's it's a life ability. It's not just a combat sports ability. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So did you ever do any boxing?
I boxed as an amateur. I had two amateur boxing matches here in Oklahoma. Um, but that was it. My pretty much all of my amateur experience. I had two amateur Muay Thai fights and I had two amateur boxing matches. Outside of that, it was all MMA fights. I had nothing but MMA fights. That was my goal focus and my career focus at the time was to be a really good MMA fighter. And so that was what I focused on. Even when I turned professional, I had 15 professional mixed martial arts fights uh, before I had transitioned over to bare knuckle. And bare knuckle was never, honestly, supposed to be a permanent thing for me. It was supposed to be a way for me to stay active and make
Yeah.
money uh, you know, while working on my grappling and my jujitsu. Because at the time when I made the transition from MMA to bare knuckle, I had an 11-4 record as a professional, and I was a purple belt. And 11-5 isn't great, but 12-4 is pretty good. So it was imperative that my next fight that I got to win, that I got a W, so that I could continue my one because I was on a 2 fight win streak, so I had to keep my win streak going. Um, but in order for me to progress in my career, I had to keep winning essentially. And where I was in my career, being 11-4, I wasn't getting any more slacking fights. Not that I had slack fights as a professional to begin with, but everybody that I was getting matched up with at this point was very high level. And like I
Yeah.
said, I was only a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. So I decided I would take some time off, really improve my wrestling and my jiu-jitsu, and bare knuckle would be a great way for me to still make money while, training my jiu-jitsu and whatnot, getting better, and then eventually going back to MMA. Well, as it stands now, I'm a four-stripe brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I've yet to have an MMA fight since I started fighting with bare knuckle. You know, um, and I think a lot of it was just because I love the strike. Like I love boxing, and I don't know if it's just a natural tendency. I don't know if it's because my first real coach was Andy, and he was a boxing coach. Like he's the one who taught me how to box. So that was the one who really, and like I said, he really became a father figure and instilled that kind of discipline in me. Um, so maybe that had something to do with it. I'm not entirely sure, but I love striking. I love boxing. If you watch any of my MMA fights, like that's what it was. That's why people came to see. That's why I got
Yeah.
all the performance bonuses and fight of the night bonuses and everything else because like I wouldn't shoot on you. Like I think through all 15 of my fights, I took 3 shots in 15 career fights as a professional. Like I wanted to stand up and throw hands. And I think that's why I love bare knuckle so much, and that's why I've been here so long. Because that's I think my true passion. It's where I belong.
Yeah. So how did it come the bare knuckle? When did the offer come along?
Yeah. So a good buddy of mine, Arnold Adams, he's actually the current heavyweight champ for the BKFC. Um, he flew to Philadelphia for their tryouts, slept at the airport, went to tryouts, came back, flew back, went to work. And he was accepted into the very first um, heavyweight championship tournament that the BKFC had. That was their big draw,
Yeah.
and that was what started off their show career. Their very first show was part of the 8-man tournament for the heavyweight title. And AJ Arnold, he got accepted into the tournament, and on top of that, I had two other training partners that were supposed to be on the card. So they asked me if I would fly out and corner for them. So I said, yeah, absolutely. So I flew out with him. We were in Wyoming. We did the whole cornering scenario, and before the fights had happened, um, both two of my opponents or two of my teammates' opponents had backed out. They had fallen out. One guy just didn't even show up, and another guy, I want to say, like his medicals didn't clear or something like that. So basically, I went to the promoter and I said, I'll fight either one of them. Like, if you guys need somebody to jump in, I can get registered through the state in 20 minutes. All my medicals are up to date. If you need somebody to fight, like, I'll fight one of these guys. Like, I fight him for free every day at the gym. Why not get paid to do it here? Um, and they didn't let it happen, but they kind of, were enjoyed my enthusiasm. So they called me for the next show, and that was BKFC 2. That was my debut against Diego Gurrijo, and we had a barn burn. The fight only lasted about 90 seconds, but it was a barn burn. I ripped his face to shreds, and he dropped me twice, and eventually knocked me out. And they loved it so much they called us. They called both of us. And they had us come back a couple months later to do it again. And I was able to get my get back. I TKO'd him in the fourth, and that was what did it, man. I went in there and I saw the first show, and I really enjoyed it. I liked the experience, and I enjoyed the promotion and the promoters. They called me on to the second show, and even though that second show is a bit chaotic behind the scenes, it was a great time. I had a lot of fun. I was treated with a lot of respect, and I appreciated the hospitality. So I've stuck with them. That's how it
Yeah.
started.
Great. How did you see the transition going over to bare knuckle from the MMA without gloves and that?
I think uh, I think the biggest misconception that people have with bare knuckle fighting versus any other gloved sport is that it's the same sport, and it's not. There is a certain level of comfort that comes with having padding on your hands, and that's offensively and defensively. Like,
Yeah.
I know if I've got protection on my hands that I can wing these guys, and I might break them, but most likely I won't because they're padded.
Yeah.
And then defensively, I know that it's more than just my hand protecting my face or my head. I can cover up, and if it's a boxing glove, there's 8 to 12 ounces of padding there in a fight. So offensively and defensively, it changes everything. So that was a lot for me to kind of get used to and figure out early on. And I think that was the biggest. I think that's people in general, their biggest hiccup or road bump that they have to get over is they're so used to training, and having gloves on and having that extra couple of inches so that one, you're defended, but two, you can reach people from further away. You can open your hand, and because you've got the glove, things like that, like they're used to training. And when you get in there and there's nothing there to protect you, it's a very different feeling. Um, and then also, there's a big difference between what we do here in the United States and what you guys do in the UK. We have essentially transitioned just the punching and the stand-up game from MMA. And what I mean by that is, like, we're allowed to clinch. I can grab your head. I can dirty box you, essentially. I
Yeah.
can grab your arm. I can do all kinds of that stuff. Where in the UK, as far as I know, it's pure pugilism. You're not allowed to hold on. You're not allowed to grab. You're not allowed to clinch. It's pure ungloved boxing. And so even from the UK's perspective, who's used to a bare knuckle sport, we still do it different, So
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest thing for me to get over and to get used to. And I think anybody coming in, if I could give them any piece of advice, it would be prepared, because the second you toe that line, what you think it's going to be, it's not that.
Yeah. I've got to ask you, mate, how
Mhm.
frustrating was your fight with Joe Elmore?
Mm, that's one of those things that you just have to be humble enough to accept the decision. I to this day will tell anybody and everybody I beat Joe Elmore's ass. I don't care what anybody says. I riddled his face with punches for 5 rounds. That being said, you cannot win a fight when you get dropped 4 out of those 5 rounds. And that's what happened. Even though I landed God knows how many punches, I still put myself in vulnerable positions, took heavy shots, and went down. And in the eyes of the boxing community, the knockdown always wins, regardless. So that was just me being forced to be like, okay, yeah, you can take shots and you can get up, but that doesn't win fights. You've got to go out there and like you got to finish people. You've got to be fighting in your right weight class. You have to put yourself in good positions offensively, but also defensively. So it was a very frustrating loss, but I'm sure anybody who's ever competed knows that you don't learn anything from a win because you feel like you did everything right. So that was a scenario where I felt like I did everything right, but I still lost. So I was like, all right, like you got to figure out what you did wrong and how you can correct that moving forward. So early on, it was frustrating, but I don't know. After the bitterness wore off, it was just like any other loss. It was just like we had to figure out what we did wrong and go from there, grow and evolve.
Of course, bro. And are you feeling a lot comfortable at the weight you're fighting at now? Because I know you've come down in weights, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah. I started my MMA career and I had my entire MMA career at 155 pounds. And then for whatever reason, when I went to bare knuckle, I decided I was done with cutting weight. So I stayed around 165, 170 because that's what I walk around at. I'm about 168 pounds walking around. So that was what I decided to fight at. Not realizing or not being an intelligent fighter and understanding that these guys are still cutting weight. Like I'm not the only one not cutting weight, or I should say I'm probably the only one not cutting weight. These guys are still coming down from whatever they're coming down at. So when I fought Diego at 165, he was a big, strong guy, and he got the best of me the first time. But I was able to, be smarter the second time around. I got that W. And then I fought Julian Lane at 170 pounds, and that was just a mistake. That guy's so big and hits so hard. Um, he dropped me twice in the first round, and I never fully recovered after that. Like to be fully honest with you, I was trying to move, I was trying to be elusive, but if you watch that fight, I'm always this far away, and I'm rallying combinations, but I'm that far away, and that comes down to that distance thing that I was telling you, but also that just I wasn't there. He was too big for me to handle. So then I went back to 65, had the Joe Elmore fight, and that was finally where it was like, all right, man, like you can compete with these guys, but I don't think you can beat these guys. You need to be where you're supposed to be. So I made the commitment to go back down to 155 pounds, and it's worked out well for me since. I'm on a 3-fight win streak. Um, First fight, I finished in the first round. Second fight, finished in the second round. Third fight, finished in the third round. Um, this next fight, fourth fight, plan on finishing in the fourth. So just keep the pattern going. Um, but yeah, man, it's been a good move for me, and it was an intelligent move. It's where I need to be because the heavy. I'm small for 100. I'm tall for 155 pounds, but I'm not big. You know what I mean? So it's just this is where I need to be.
Yeah, see, last outing was in April, wasn't it? Do you have any idea of when your next fight is, or is it something that you can't talk about?
It's something that I can't give details on outside of as far as I know, the date is December 3rd. So that'll put me at 8 months in between fights, roughly. Um, 7 and a quarter. But As far as I know, I don't have the contract yet, but word through the grapevine is December 3rd is when I will be back, and hopefully we'll be able to make an announcement soon, get things kind of locked in, and go from there. But I've been waiting for a long time, man. You know, like I said, if the fight plays out in December, that'll be 7 months, 7.25 months, and that's just too long for me. That's too. I'm 33 years old. I'm coming into my physical prime, I feel, and I really need to stay active to staple something in history. You know, in today's day and age, people move on to the next trend like as quickly as they change their underwear. So for a professional fighter to be out of the game for 7 to 8 months, it's very difficult to maintain notoriety, and that's what I need to be doing at this point in my career is taking fights that make sense and leaving a legacy because I've already built everything else. You know, now it's time for that cherry on top.
Yeah, well, hopefully it is December 3rd, mate, because I am, and I'm sure all the bare knuckle fans are looking forward to seeing you fight next.
I hope so, man. I know that there's a lot of loyal people out there, and I appreciate each and every one of them. And they're giving each and every one of them are giving the BKFC hell. You know, they're letting them know like, hey, it's been too long. We need this guy back. You know, he's exciting, so on and so forth. So, yeah, man, I have high hopes and a lot of faith in the company, and I think that we'll be able to get it done for December 30th.
Cushy. And I'm presuming you watch BKFC London. We had BKFC over here in the UK.
Yeah, yeah, I really liked it. I thought production wise, it looked stellar. They had a really good crew who went in there and put on an excellent show. All the fights were really good. Um, yeah, I had zero complaints on the fights. I thought they were fantastic. But the main thing that I was looking forward to was that James Lilly Tyler Goodjohn fight, and that was exactly what I expected to see play out. It was a good one, so I liked it.
Yeah, quality, mate. It was an unbelievable night. Like, what do you think of Conatini? He's like
Oh
probably.
man, you know I got offered to fight here many months back. For the BKFC. It was actually I want to say it would have been his debut fight. Yeah, because he was supposed to fight Jim Allers, and then something. I think Jim got injured, so they called me. Um, and full disclosure, total honesty, I said no. I said that guy is a real 165 pounder who's been through an entire training camp. And you want me to take this fight? I think it was like less than 2 weeks notice. It was pretty short notice. It was like you want me to fight this guy a weight class above me, built just like me, fights very similar to how I fight on 10 days notice, knowing full well he's got 10 pounds in a full training camp. I said, you're crazy. I said all that. Connor Tierney's the real deal, man. The guy knows how to fight. He's got experience. He comes out and he plays the game well. He doesn't take a lot of damage. He's not afraid to to move and be evasive to save from taking that damage, but he'll also get in there and he'll throw. He's shown twice now that he can take shots and keep going. And he's young. He's still got. I don't know exactly how old the guy is, but I'm pretty sure he's less than 30 years old.
Yeah,
So
he's still in his late 20s. I think he's 27. Connor.
yeah, so it's like, man, you still got a whole career in front of you if you do it right. So
Yeah.
he's legit, man. I've got nothing but kind things to say about the Brumtown Bomber until he decides he wants to come down to 155 pounds.
Yeah,
If he
he's,
comes
yeah,
down to my
he's
weight class, I
now.
might have different words to say. But no, I got nothing but respect for the guy. He's a talented boxer. He's a talented fighter, and I enjoy watching him fight, man. I loved watching him basically steal my playbook and beat the shit out of Joe Elmore. That was fun for me. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a boy, he's some boy like Connor. And would you ever like to fight over in the UK yourself, Tom?
Oh man, I would love to. I will be I'll be in London in 2 weeks. I'm coming out there for the BYB BKB
Oh yeah,
mess
yeah.
up. So I'm cornering one of my fighters, or not one of my fighters, but a good buddy of mine who's also a fighter. His name's Brandon Johnson, Boss Hog. And so I'll be out there in 2 weeks, and I can't wait, man. I'm looking forward to just experiencing it. It'll be the first time I've ever been in the UK, and to be there for the fights and with two excellent organizations. I'm really looking forward to coming out there. And from what I hear, BKFC is opening a London chapter or a UK chapter.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised in the slightest if you saw me across the pond sometime soon.
Yeah, it would be good, mate. It would be good. And before we wrap it up, Tom, is there any shout outs or sponsors you want to give a big up to?
I don't have a lot of sponsors, I'll be completely honest with you. But I would like to shout out Scally Caps. They sent me a care package not too long ago, and I should have had the hat on, but they make really cool hats and whatnot, and so they're pretty great. I got to shout out my gym, Alpha MMA, Ricardo Cavalcante, BJJ here in Lawton, Oklahoma. If anybody across the pond decides they want to come over here and do some training, you guys are more than welcome to be here. That's really it, man. I really don't have much else to say. Thank you to everybody who's watching this, taking time out of your day to listen to me ramble. That's really it, man. Thank you for having me on. That's all I got, man.
Great. So I really enjoyed the interview with you, mate, and I'm much appreciated for you coming on the show. We'll have to, towards December 3rd, we'll have to catch up again, hopefully, and get some more news on your fight.
Let's do that. Absolutely. I'll tell you what, once I get confirmation on everything, I'll shoot you a message and we can do another one and get people hyped up for it.
Yeah, man, 100%. Thank you very much, Tom. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, pal.
Thank you, man. You as well. You have a great one.
See you later, brother.
Bye-bye.